What's up? I'm Drew Paul Bell, and today we have a question from our friend Zlipster Royals, and they want to know, were you a straight A student in architecture school? All right, so I, long story short, I made mostly A's, not all A's, and I'm not going to bore you with like every core class, the grade I got in every single core class. Those were like mostly A's, like the lecture classes and all that stuff, and like even some of the ones that like a lot of people struggle to get A's in. But what I want to talk about is studio. To me, studio classes are really kind of like the most telling about my own arc within architecture school. I started out my very first semester and I made like an A that first semester, and then I made a B and I made B's for like a couple semesters, and then I made a C in one studio semester, and then I climbed back up, climbed after that. I made a B, and then I made an A, and then I made A's on like the next 4 semesters until I graduated. And there were like I had 10 semesters because it was like a 5-year program. Why I think this is telling is because about me anyway, is that when I got there, I did kind of well at the very beginning. It was more like art. It was more like art, that first studio, and it was about just drawing charcoals, and then it was about like material calisthenics, and it wasn't buildings. Like the last project was about analyzing building type stuff. It was always kind of like, it kind of had something to do with architecture, but it was really more like art. And I had actually never had any practice in art before. I had not been drawing, I had not done modeling, making, and I was really nervous about it going in. But I would really work hard at it, and I would put in the hours, and I knew that like if I put in enough hours, I would be good. But if I slacked off and cut it back, I would not be as good. And I would see my friends do the same thing. I'd see them all go to like Waffle House at 2 in the morning instead of finishing up and being done by 4 or 5. They took breaks and then went till 8 in the morning. I didn't do all that. I worked really hard, did well that first semester, but then I got cocky, right? And then that second semester, I spent a little extra time on Facebook, right? I'd wait a little longer before going to studio. I'd maybe leave studio a little bit earlier that night, and that coupled with I felt like that professor and I that semester didn't really jive very well, like with his teaching style, just didn't really do it for me. Then I made a B then the semester after that, and yeah, so then I eventually made a C, and that was in like third year. First semester, and it stinks because like a lot of people in my studio and like in my school, they seem to think, oh, the like B's were average, and like everybody would get a B, and if you got a C, that means you were like really bad. And I was like, the teacher's trying to say like that was like your way to like, you need to just like go major in something else. But one, that professor actually said like he was worried that was happening, and he felt like B's had become average, but really C's were average, and that was like the official stance of the school, right? C means average. And so I got a C that semester, and I earned it. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I struggled to kind of get the concepts that semester, and that semester for me was also loaded up with classes. I had like the normal load of classes, and then I also had another class on top of that was like an honors class. So I was in the honors department. But yeah, so I mean, I made a C. I'm proud of that C because to me, what I did next was I pulled that back. Like that next semester, I climbed back with a B. And I was still kind of recovering from like the wreck of a semester that was like my third year first semester, that third year second semester. I climbed that back up to a B, and that was one that I felt like could arguably have been an A, but I didn't go in and argue with the professor. I took what I got, and I got a B that semester. The next semester after that, I really grinded, dude. I struggled really hard. It was like an urban design studio, and it was like a group assignment, and I remember our daily motto that we would almost always say to each other was start over, because it felt like we were always with our heads underwater, not sure what we were doing, and not sure how to progress the project. We just the urban design concept was just difficult for us. The way that our professor dealt with it, he was like, it's not buildings, it's like the space in between, but yet you're still kind of doing the buildings too, because that manipulates the space in between. And he was totally smart, and I jived with his teaching style. I loved him as a professor. The content, which is really hard for me. But despite all that, despite making a C 2 semesters before, and despite the grind and always like the choke of like start over every day, I actually ended up with an A in that studio, and then A's, kind of from that point on. And to me, I think that shows the ability to kind of, it reveals a little bit something about human nature, if it's only my human nature, to like do pretty well, but then kind of get cocky, let it slide, and then like not do as great, but then bounce back and then finish strong, right? And I think it also says that, if you're in architecture school now, and if you have not made good grades in the past, then that doesn't mean that you have to continue not making good grades. You're there to figure it out, right? You're there to just decide to figure out how it's done, to get a handle on it. And if you don't have a handle on it yet, okay. I mean, yeah, there's stuff at stake. You know, you can lose scholarships, you can lose your grade point average, and maybe you're not going to look as good applying to jobs. But don't think that just because like you haven't done well in the past means that like you're going to be bad forever. It just means that you haven't figured it out yet. And for me, it took a couple of professors, and it's not about getting along well with the professors, right? Because that happened to me my last 4 semesters. But it was like the reason why we got along was because I was able to understand the content. I would work really hard at it, and that's what helped me then get along. It also helped me make better grades, right? But it's because I wouldn't say it clicked, but I would say I gained a lot of ground on those last couple of years when I made all those A's. So it's kind of a long-winded answer, but so yeah, that's what I got. I hope this answers your question. All right, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if you enjoyed it. I hope this helps, and I will talk to you next time.